Encouraging, empowering, inspiring each other on this journey of faith. United in purpose, sisters in love we are. Women were leaders.
Welcome to Empowering Lives with Purpose, and I'm your host, Kimberly Hobbs. I am the founder of Women World Leaders, and we are so happy that you joined us today. And today I have our guest, Thapi from South Africa, and Lisa Morrison, who is returning from last week to say hi. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Nice to have both of you. Thank you so much for being on. Ladies, God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. That's Philippians 2:13. And we believe at Women World Leaders by women sharing stories with each other that are inspiring and encouraging and empowering. It will help you, the listener, to just maybe spark something in you that God is birthing or calling you to. And we are just hoping that we can help you in this journey. It's a journey of Jesus and living our life for him. So this is such an amazing South African young story of Thapi, and we are just so excited to share it with you today, the God calling on her life. God did something amazing in this young woman's life. He spoke to her and she answered saying, I will go wherever you send me. And so this is part two of an interview that took place last week with Lisa Morrison, and who is Thapi's adopted mom here in America. And it is a God journey of a mother from the United States and a South African daughter, and how they came together in God's calling for their life. So Thapi, can you share how you pronounce your South African name?
My real name is Mathapelo.
Mathapelo.
Yes.
And amen. And what is the meaning of your name?
It means woman of prayer.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And Thapi is a woman of prayer. To be where she is today, we know that took an amazing amount of prayer. Thapi is an ambassador of Christ and completely sold out to him. And she was born and raised in South Africa. And as I said, she now resides here in America with her God-given mother, Lisa Morrison. So we just wanted to say hi to Lisa again today. And you can hear Lisa's part of the story if you go back a week in a podcast, and you can hear Lisa's story. Today is going to be Thapi's story. So thank you, Lisa, for saying hi to everybody. So Thapi is currently earning her master's in theological studies at the Nazarene Theological Seminary. And she is also an author, and you can hear her story or read her story in Courageous Steps of Faith, which I'll share a little bit more about that at the end of this podcast. But Thapi's greatest desire is to serve the Lord by being a witness to his people in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and carry out his purpose to the ends of the world. So Thapi, let's talk to our audience today and just talk about your calling. Before you even came into your calling, you grew up in South Africa, and you had a grandmother that really spoke into your life growing up. Do you want to share a little bit about her?
Yes, I'd love to. So I was brought up in a Christian home, Christian family, and I was brought up by this phenomenal, amazing woman of God, my grandmother, because my dad passed away when I was 3 years old. So we lived with my grandmother, and she's the one that brought us up. And it was through her obedience, honestly, to God, and her faithfulness to God that she trained us up in a godly way, and we followed it, and I personally followed it, and it made a huge difference. And in a way, it was like God using her to shape and mold what he has put in my life. So that's how I look at it. And so I'm grateful that she was obedient to actually carry that out, carry her purpose out in training us in a way that we should go. Yeah.
Yes. And some of our older audience, if you're a grandmother, just know that your life is significant in the lives of your grandchildren. The impact is so important, right, Thapi? You love that she poured into your life as a young woman.
Right.
I mean, as a child, and that shaped her. You said at like age 10, you felt the calling on your life. I was like, wow. When I was reading your story, Courageous Steps of Faith, I was like blown away. But that was at age 10. You knew there was a calling on your life and you carried that through. But later in your teen years, you spoke of how you audibly heard from God. Wow. Can you talk about that extraordinary moment where you heard God's voice and how you had to exercise obedience in what you heard?
Right. So that moment, that experience where I heard God is tied back to when I was 10 years old. So I knew, I didn't fully know what was going on. All I knew was I just had this burning desire to serve God. I just wanted to work for him. Sometimes I would wake up and just feel like I want to climb the highest mountain and just share with people about this loving and caring God. And so, when you grow up, the desires that you have, the love that you have for God, it starts fading away and you want to do your own thing, right? So I wanted to become a geologist. I wanted to become a journalist. And, that desire slowly but surely faded away. It was not as strong as when I was 10 years old. And one day when I was 18 years old, we had a college promotion. Nazarene Theological College came to my church to do a college promotion. And it was in that moment, and they were talking about God's call in one's life. And before the preacher finished preaching his sermon, I knew that God was doing something in my heart. And I was fighting it. I remember sitting down and telling him in my mind, I'm like, God, I cannot do this. I will be anything you want me to be, not a preacher. Because you know how preachers have that stigma of, they don't get paid, they are poor, and all those things. And so in my mind, I was like, God, I will be anything you want me to be, but I don't want to be a pastor. I don't want to be a preacher. And I remember when the pastor was done preaching, he said, if you feel that God is calling you, come forward. I just couldn't. I couldn't sit still. I found myself forward crying so deeply. I was weeping and I was begging God. I'm like, why now? Why me? And God, being the faithful God that he is, he actually took me back at that moment. It was like a film playing right in front of my eyes. He took me back to when I was 10 years old. And he reminded me, he said, remember when you had that burning desire to serve me. Remember when you wanted to preach my word to the whole world. Remember when you wanted to serve me. And he said, now's the time that I am calling you to go into ministry. So it was just an amazing and yet scary experience for me at that time, because God had to take me back to when he gave me that desire. It did not come from me. It was his.
For him.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for him. Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you loved your country very much. And the Bible says that by faith, Abraham obeyed when God called him to leave home and go to another land, Hebrews 11:8. Well, you left a country that you loved so much, a family that loved you and you loved them, and a grandmother you so deeply love. Your yes was huge to God. Your yes to leave all that and go to another land. You laid your life down, Thapi, to serve God in a calling that he had placed on your life. So can you talk about that calling where you had to let go of everything you knew in South Africa at a young age? you were 20, 21, right?
Mm-hmm.
Called you out of your homeland to go to a far away land.
Right.
Explain how he called you to America.
So I'll just try and cut it short. So what happened is I always knew that God would call me to a foreign country, a foreign place, but it did not cross my mind that that place would be America. I thought it would be somewhere in Africa, because my heart's desire, or the desire that God had put in my heart, is kind of like some mission work. So I knew I was going to be outside Africa, but not necessarily America. So how it came for me to be here in America was through my mom, who you met earlier on. How God has put us together, how God has put this amazing love in her heart for me. And so that's how God had called us together to come and do ministry. Now, did I know how it was going to look like? Did I know why God had to do it that way? I had no idea why God had to call me to come to America, where else we have a lot of, seminaries, we have a lot of colleges and universities in South Africa, but he specifically made it clear for me to come here and do life with my American vanilla mom. And it was really hard because I love South Africa. I didn't want to come to America. I have a loving family that is very supportive, and it was also hard for them. And I'm the last one. So my mom was really worried for me to come here. But I had to obey God, even though I did not know the end or why he had asked me to come here. I had to obey, leave everything behind, and just follow him.
Yes. And you did that, honey. And wow, you came over and you called her your vanilla mom.
My vanilla mom.
Yeah. I love that. We have ebony and ivory, chocolate and vanilla. It's beautiful. And you two make the most amazing couple together. Clearly just a God ordained union of two souls. Just so beautiful. But Thapi, again, you, while you were in America, going to seminary, and all of the struggles that you two were facing, and now, Lisa had to take care of a 21-year-old when she lived a single life serving God, just being in charge of herself. Now, all of a sudden, God gives her a daughter, the day before you were to, make that decision to come. It's like what God did in that moment. But while you were here, you had some issues going on, and you were pulled back home. You had some significant losses in your life that brought you back to South Africa. And you could have ended up staying there. I know you've made several trips back to South Africa since you've been here in America. But it was truly obedience to God that led you back here again. Can you talk about that back and forth and that struggle? Because something you wrote in your book, in Courageous Steps of Faith, is that God asked you, will you still go wherever I send you, Thapi? Because you struggled. You got back home and you did not necessarily want to come back to America. Let's talk about that for a moment.
Oh, Miss Kimberly, that was a struggle. The going back and forth was a struggle for me, because once I landed in South Africa and I had to come back to America, everything in me shouted, screamed, no, I didn't want to come back. I didn't want to come back. I had to fight. I had my family, they had to say, okay, fine, you only left with 2 months or 3 months or so. But it was really difficult for me, honestly, to actually come back when I went home to visit. Because I didn't want to be here. I'm going to be honest. I didn't want to be here. Not that my mom is a bad person or that Americans are bad people. It's just that I wanted to be home and serve God at home. And obviously you have the cultural differences as well. But one significant travel for me was when my grandmother passed away, which, when you serve God, you don't know what you're going to get. and you serve him fully trusting and believing that he's got you. You don't put terms and conditions when you follow God. You don't say, God, if I follow you, you must do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for me. No, you just do it because you love him and you are being obedient to him. And one of the things that I knew that I was going to face was, okay, what if somebody passes away back at home, right? Like, what if my grandmother dies or somebody close to me dies? And unfortunately, it happened. She passed away, and it was the most painful thing. It was on the 4th of July. Actually, I was doing summer ministry. It felt like a dream to me. It was the most painful thing ever. And knowing that, she was the love of my life. I looked forward to going back home to her. Yeah. Right? She was the reason why. And so when I lost her, it was really painful, but there were a lot of lessons learned where God had to say, I am your God. Wow. I am your provider. I am your supporter. I am your everything. You should be, you should only love me. I should come first in life, not your grandmother, not anyone. So there were a lot of lessons learned even when my grandmother passed away, because I know had she been alive, I would not be in America today. Wow. I would still be home because I told God straightforward that I want to take care of my grandmother. I wanted to be with my grandmother. So her passing away was a way of God saying that I still have a lot of things for you to do. You cannot be held up by, loving your grandmother so much. So
that's right. And I'm sure we can all learn from this lesson. Mm-hmm. Like, I had goosebumps when you said that, because sometimes we hold on to things so tight in our life that they can almost become like an idol. But, you just love so desperately, and sometimes, it's not that it's a bad thing, but God gently removes those things in your life because he knows it could eventually be a stumbling block holding you from your purpose. Definitely. So, if there's anybody listening in, it's like when you see God's hand move in a story such as yours, Thapi, you know that God has gently been moving you forward, when those steps of faith, and you see doors opening and you see doors closing, because ladies, when you answer the call, when God has a call on your life, you clearly see doors open, you clearly see doors close as well, as Thapi did. Something, Thapi, that you said in your book, I again, where he leads, I will follow, because home is wherever he is. That was like powerful. And I wrote that down because I wanted to share that with the ladies, that home is wherever he is. And that's huge, because you developed a love relationship with Jesus, and you knew, Thapi, that he became your all in all. He became your first love. And so now you were free to serve him with all your heart, all your mind, all your body, everything that's in you. Can you share with the women, because I know we're going to close it up, but just share with them some encouragement if they are on that road going forward, and they may have hit a roadblock of, God, I'm afraid to serve you. Lord, I don't know what that looks like. This is crashing down all around me. How do I move forward? Can you share? Because you were at that point where you didn't want to move forward to your calling.
Yeah. Actually, the wherever you are, wherever God is, home is wherever God is, was actually inspired after my grandmother passed away, because then when I went home, it did not feel the same anymore, right? Because my grandmother was not there. And I realized that actually God has been everywhere I've been, and I cannot define home by a place. A certain place. I cannot define home by a certain country. Home is where God is. Where God is, that's where I'm going to build my home, right? Because he's there. And so my encouragement to women out there would be, another scripture verse for me is, deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow him. And he says that if you're not worthy, if you're not willing to let go of your mother, your father, your brothers and sisters, then you're not worthy to be called his disciple, right? He's not saying, God is not saying that to be mean and spiteful to us, but he knows that when we let go of what we are holding on to, he's going to take care of it, right? I let go of my family. I let go of myself, my interests, my everything. And I focused on him and I held on to him. The thing is, when you hold on to God, then he takes care of everything. When you let go, he takes care of it. He takes care of your family, whatever it is that you love. He knows that he's going to take it. You cannot take care of it on your own. So that's why he says we should cling to him, let go of all these things, because he knows that he's got it. He's got it. He's got you in your baggage and your worries. And so with that, I have this like special song that I would like to share and sing. And it basically says that, God has made a way. He has made a way where there seemed to be no way for me. God has opened up the doors, not only for me, but for me and my mom. I mean, please buy the book. You will read our story. Everything is in the book because we have a limited time. And so God has made tons and tons of like ways for us when we thought, okay, this is it. What do we do next, God? He just has come through for us all the time. You made a way. Oh, you made a way. When our backs were against the wall and it looked as if it was over, you made a way. Lord, you made a way. And we're standing here only because you made a way. Amen.
Oh, sweetheart, that is just beautiful. And you sing to the Lord from your heart, which is beautiful in itself. And he surely made a way, and he's still making a way for you. And ladies, we just feel that God is making a way for you too. We know he is, because he doesn't, he won't leave you where you are. And he wants you to come. And that verse, it's Luke 9:23 that Tabby shared. If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. And ladies, we just pray that over your life right now. If you are feeling led into a calling, don't doubt that calling. Don't let the enemy put things into your mind that shouldn't be there. Take up your cross and be obedient and follow him. He wants you. He loves you. And boy, again, Thapi, thank you for sharing your story of obedience and the calling that you had on your life. And as we spoke about, Thapi's story is in Courageous Steps of Faith, as is Lisa Morrison's story. They're side by side in this book. And this book is put out by Women World Leaders and will be available in November of 2020 through womenworldleaders.com or on Amazon. I believe it comes out on ebook on November 12th, and then it'll be available paperback on November 26th. But we do prefer if you would go through womenworldleaders.com to get your copy of Courageous Steps of Faith. And we are just so excited about this book and the fact that we know it is going to inspire and give hope for those of you out there that just need that courage, and all these God stories of how these amazing women like Thapi herself at such a young age took a courageous step of faith to go into her God calling on her life. And now look at her. She's almost done with seminary, and we just can't wait to see what God is going to do. He is going to change the world through you, Thapi.
Amen.
Thank you, honey, for answering that call. And we will continue to pray for you, Thapi. So please, ladies, pray for Thapi, pray for Lisa, as this is a journey of faith and trust. We all know what it's like to be in those positions. So we will pray for you, hon. So ladies, if you enjoyed what you heard, we're asking you to please share the podcast with those of you, with those that you love, and just invite them to hear more about God's extravagant love and your courageous purpose. Again, you can visit our website at womenworldleaders.com. It's there. You can register for upcoming events. You can submit a prayer request, because we have a whole team of prayer warriors that are willing to pray for you. And then also we have a Facebook group, Women World Leaders. It's private. We would love to invite you in, and it's there that you can interact with other women in the comment sections after you read a daily devotional, and just interact. So please request us for the Women World Leaders private group, and we'll let you in. And we would love to meet you and know how God has touched your life and is walking in your life. So from his heart to yours, we are Women World Leaders. All content is copyrighted by Women World Leaders and cannot be used without express written consent. Ladies, I also want to share that we do have these podcasts available for you to tune into every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So listen for Walking in the Word on Wednesdays and Journey into Joy every Friday. God bless you. Have a great day.